Hello, hello. I am Bex Baker, your host. I am an adopter of two. I discovered very early on in our first adoption that there were no Christian podcasts set within the UK context discussing all things fostering and adoption. On this podcast, we are going to talk to people across the 4 nations of the UK about their stories in relation to all things fostering, adoption, kinship care, supported lodgings, all things vulnerable children. Every story is unique and beautiful as to how God is working in the care system across the UK. If you would like to share your story, please contact us via email or DM us on Instagram. This is Families Made Differently. Hello and welcome to Families Made Differently. We are joined with Debbie here today, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Debbie. I'm 59 years old and I'm a mum of 3, but an adoptive mum of 2 of them. I have 1 biological child as well.
Amazing. And how did you come to be an adopter?
Yes, well, I don't really think it was never really part of my long-term plan to being adopted, if I was honest. We just had our first child, biological child, very, very easily, and we didn't really try for very long, and it just happened. And then after a couple of years of trying for baby number 2, nothing ever happened. Then I just discovered I had an inhospitable womb, which led to a hysterectomy. I found the whole, even just all the investigation and the tests, really quite intrusive. So I kind of knew IVF, and that wasn't for me. Because, I really didn't enjoy the test that I'd had. Yeah, so being an adopter was I think the next logical step. But in hindsight now, I knew it was a good thing to do at the time, and I knew it was a positive thing to do. But I guess in hindsight, I have just seen how, as a Christian, God was leading us down that path all the time, even though I probably didn't know it. And it had never really been in my head. Grew up, I hadn't known many people who had adopted, to be honest, and I hadn't known many people who were adopted. So it was all relatively new for my husband and I. Once we'd started the process, it all felt very natural, and we never thought, oh, this isn't for us. So I guess you just keep going with the process until the very end.
So it didn't necessarily feel like God was like calling you into it before you started?
Not before we started it, no. No, I don't think, hand on my heart, we wouldn't have adopted had we been able to have more biological children. I suspect at that time, who knows what would have happened in the future. Now, 30 years down the road, we have a large house and think, we could be fostered in. But who knows if I would have come to that stage if we hadn't done the adoption process. But no, I knew God was in it.
Yeah.
But it was never a huge plan of mine to adopt. The plan was to have biological children and to have a family.
When you started it, had you come to terms with the fact you couldn't have biological?
Oh no, that took a long time to come to terms with that. Because when you suddenly can't have children of your own, you just see babies everywhere. They're around every corner, they're on every bus stop, they're in every store, and you don't really notice them until you desperately want them and you can't have them. Yeah, it took me a long time, I think, just to come to terms with how the fact I could have had 1 and then no more. Was my first one a miracle? Did things all go wrong during that pregnancy? We don't really know. But yeah, I think if I've got to be honest, I think I was a wee bit disappointed in God for a while. But I guess everybody is who doesn't get what they want from God.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
In any part of life.
It doesn't have to be a baby. It could be anything.
Yeah.
You desperately want a job, or you desperately want a spouse, or you desperately want anything. And you feel disappointed because you don't get it.
And how do you feel now about?
Oh, absolutely fine. I look back and I see God's hand in all of it now. It's not to say I wouldn't have loved another biological child, I would have, but it's not going to happen now. I've totally come to terms with where we're at.
So how has adoption shaped your family?
It shapes you, I think, in ways that, you don't expect. You would go from a family of 3 to now a family of 5. They have their extended families as well. Both my adoptees have varying contact with their biological families. So that has shaped us in a way that I guess I never really thought would happen. And it just takes you down paths and into areas that you just think, oh man, this is just unbelievable. How are we here? How did we get to this place?
What is your favourite memory so far in your adoption journey?
Oh, it has to be, I think, just the sweet moments where they do say, you know, I love you, or we laugh in our family, we say, I love you, and the other one says, I'm fond of you too. I think we don't want to be too soppy with each other, but the kids say that to us now. I say, love you. And she says, I'm fond of you too, Mum, but I know she really loves me. And I guess those are great memories. But to look back and see them in family photographs and Christmases and just even, you know, when you were younger and they needed childcare, they'd be out with your pals and your pals would be doing stuff with them, and, you know, your pals would be taking them to their mums and they'd come back talking about a new gran or something. And I think it's just seeing how they've integrated and how our peers and our friends have just loved them, and it's never been an issue that they've been adopted. I can remember the first time we brought our first adopted child home, she was an absolute whirlwind. It was a bizarre day because I'd locked myself out. I think I'd been so excited in the morning about actually going to finally pick her up forever that I'd locked myself out, so I had to go to my friends to wait for Stephen to come home from work, and she was just crawling about this house like an absolute whirlwind, and it just felt so natural. And, you know, my friend picking her up and cuddling her and just loving her instantly as if she'd been mine forever, you know, but I'd had her like half an hour or something to actually on my own. The best memory is, I think, when they say, oh, love you, Mum.
How has God been speaking to you through it?
I think God has opened our eyes to what life is like for some of these kids being removed from a biological family, or even in foster care. That's not always ideal. Sometimes one of mine didn't have a great experience at foster care. Just seeing that absolutely blows your mind. Do you think, how can people treat kids like this, or how do kids survive that? I guess giving you a real compassion for kids that have been through trauma and do struggle. One of my adopted kids has huge behavioural difficulties as a result of really severe neglect and trauma in the first 3 years. And I think had I not understood all of that, it's easy to be really harsh and really condemning when you see other kids, or you hear on the news of, you know, kids behaving badly, or teenagers kicking off and doing this, that and the other. But I think you just see the other side of it, and you just suddenly realise that really we have no idea what these kids have been through. Patience is a huge thing that God has taught us, and just how to love. I think just loving kids unconditionally, even though they're not your ideal perfect child. You know, it's like really wanting a chocolate orange but somebody gives you an actual orange. So, well, it's bitterly disappointing sometimes because you really just wanted the chocolate one. You got a real orange instead. And kids don't turn out how you really always wanted them to be, or they just have so many issues that you just in life can sometimes seem as if it's against them. You learn to love them unconditionally, and that's only because God loves me unconditionally that I'm able to do that, and to see the person behind the behaviours, and not always just trying to pry. And I think I thought I could fix them initially, but actually I have learned that they just need love and safety and security, and far more than they need to be fixed.
Great. What has been your greatest challenge so far in your adoption journey?
I think it would be, again, dealing with the disappointment that they don't actually turn out like you want them to turn out, or they don't seem to be as thriving as well as they could be, or maybe that they're just not dealing with their past as well as you would like them to. And then sometimes they have so many opportunities, but they're not always ready at the right stage to grow and move on, and to grasp those opportunities with both hands. Things seem to take a lot longer with adoptive kids.
They do take longer because
they
the trauma.
They're dealing with so much other stuff.
Which head. Also caused developmental delay at the age they needed to put all these foundation blocks in. But also they might have other issues like alcohol exposure, so they might have FASD, or there's so many other things that are, I guess, as a parent of a biological child, you have control over a lot of the factors in those first 5 to 7 years that are so fundamental
absolutely
to them as a person lifelong.
And you have no control over what has happened to them.
No, you don't.
Before they come into your care. So I think it's just finding a balance of how to deal with some of the things that challenge them. Because you want them to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be.
sometimes their trauma also limits their ability to see their potential.
Absolutely. I would say for both of my adopted kids, thinking of, having plans and ambitions for the future and dreams is something that neither of them are really capable of doing. They both live very much for today, and that frustrates the life out of me because I know there is so much more they could be doing. To me, it looks like they're just wasting years.
Yeah.
I can't make them be or do or think like I would like them to do. I mean, I would love them to, both of them, to take a bit more responsibility and to learn from past mistakes and just want to progress in their lives. But they're happy just where they're at right now at the moment. And I guess I need to be happy with that as well.
Because that could also be temperament and nothing to do with...
Absolutely. Because my one biological child is a great example of someone who has thrived and has grasped opportunities and has progressed in her life. But I know loads of people with biological kids who are exactly the same as my adopted kids. I don't think it's because they're adopted or because they're biological. I think lots of times it can be temperament and character. But I think another challenge is behavioural issues I have really struggled with. Like when you go to church or when you're out in public or you're out in a restaurant or you're out in a public venue. My youngest especially, he was very prone to outbursts and kick off and language or conversations that's just not appropriate. Learning not to overreact to that, but to be calm and take all that in my stride. And even though I can be mortified and fizzing at the same time on the inside, my challenge is just controlling it. And because I know if I kick off, it would have been 1,000 times worse. We all look at families, I guess, and think they look so perfect, but we all know deep down they're not. They're just hiding their flaws very well. And so you can't always present this happy, fabulous, hunky-dory family who's got it all together. Which I suppose deep down, everybody really wants that. But having adoptive kids, that's much harder to pretend or to
Which is probably
portray.
Good.
Well, I think it is good.
It's probably helpful.
Because it is far more realistic.
Do
you know what I mean?
To see the vulnerable, to see the real, to
absolutely.
see the honest.
Because I'm not helping anybody by pretending my family is perfect and we're all tickety-boo and we all actually like each other and we love each other and we chat to each other all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I just don't know really any family that does that, to be honest. I guess that's a maturity thing though as well, isn't it? When you first marry, you just want everything to be ideal. Even if you're not talking about children, newlyweds, they want their house to be fabulous. They want it always to smell lovely. And, when you get a wee bit older, stuff the dusting, that'll be there tomorrow, I'll do that then. I've got something else to do today. And so you just tune in as a person and as a parent. You realise, that's a battle I'm not going to have today.
And in amongst all that challenge, how have you experienced God's blessing?
Well, I think it's a blessing that we're all still alive, Rebecca. I think let's just... I've not killed anybody, I've not harmed anybody.
I have days like that, don't you worry.
Done really well today, God. I've not thumped anybody. No, I think just seeing how God has sustained us. We've had some big issues from our adoptive kids. Behavioural issues with sexuality, criminal behaviour. We've had a lot. God has sustained us. We haven't fallen apart. We still laugh. We do cry a lot, but we laugh a lot. Being part of church is such an amazing blessing. Having Christian friends are an amazing blessing. People that understand, I think, what you're going through. People that you can just be yourself with. I have learned actually that I can do without friends that I have to pretend with, because that's not really any use to me. So having friends that I know, I can just be very real with has been an enormous blessing. And God has been incredibly faithful to us over the years. There were times where I just thought, oh man, if I didn't have my faith as a family, we would just absolutely fall apart. But you cling on to God's promises. And I recognise that we've got a responsibility as well to our family to look for God's blessings even when sometimes they're not even very evident. God's blessings are always there.
You kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, and it's kind of been a theme running through about direct contact. And you mentioned that your kids have varying levels of contact with their birth families. How much has that been a part of your story?
Okay, well, I'll start with our youngest child. He's 1 he's actually one of 5. When we adopted him, he was just one of 3. And he had 2 younger siblings that he was very, very, very close with, but they were adopted separately. So we had contact with Jamie's 2 biological sisters for years and years and years, and we would meet days out in the park, picnics. They came here, we went to their house, they'd swap birthday presents, they would chat on the phone, that kind of thing. And that was kind of easier to do when they were younger. They've all grown up, they're all late teens. They've all just kind of go their own way, and they do keep in touch just on Instagram. Or I think social media can be such a great thing. It's also been quite harmful in some respects, because my son has been able to contact a biological uncle and a biological aunt, somebody that is claiming that he thinks could or could not be his biological dad, and they just have conversations online that we are not really party to. It was so much easier to control when they were younger, because the only contact they had, we took them to.
Yeah.
Now that they're older and all 3 kids are well in their teens, who they're in touch with is much more difficult to control. But it hasn't really had any negative influence on his life. Jamie would still say he's very close to his biological sisters. He's just not in a position to see them quite as often as he would like to now, but they did play a big part. And I think because they were adopted and they settled, it helped him see that, well, you can go and you can be happy with another family. My first adoptive child, she didn't want any contact at all. We would often ask, if you want to try and find your birth mum, or you can do. That was a closed adoption, just letterbox contact only, but there was never anything in the post. Patilla never ever made an issue to her. But again, just Facebook and different things, she's been able to track down. She had a very unusual surname when she was born, so very easy to track down family, and she's found a biological aunt and a biological half brother. Yes, they're not local. She has no desire to meet them. I've looked up their profiles online, and we've looked at them together, and I've said, would you like to go and see? Would you like us to contact your brother and you can go and see him? She says, nah, don't really want to. So I think just knowing that they have found them, maybe seen a photograph, neither of them have this huge burning desire to see them. They're both happy with the level of contact that they have right now. But I think when they were younger, and especially when they first came to us, I'm glad that they were young enough not to be on social media, because they were well settled in this family before they even got a hint that they could look somebody up and find somebody online. So,
do you want to quickly just explain what letterbox is?
Yes, letterbox contact is that if the biological mum or the biological gran wrote a letter or sent a birthday card or a Christmas card or something to Taylor, then it would go to social work and they would read it. They would open it, they would read it. If it was suitable, it would be sent on to me, but nothing ever came.
Did you write anything
in
that direction? So letterbox was only one way?
It was only one way, yes.
Okay.
What we would have done had something came and had an address on, I'm not really sure. I don't know if social work would have taken that address off.
Yeah.
That might have been, rubbed out or something. I don't really know. But nothing ever came. Though it's funny because you did think the first couple of birthdays, I guess I just came to my mind, I wondered if something will come. But I don't know if I hoped it would or if I hope it wouldn't.
Oh, interesting, yeah. Yeah, so we actually do letterbox, and so we write a letter every year. It's now definitely done in 2-directional. By the sounds of it, you were always open to direct contact.
I think you grew. The more confident you became, that they were happy, they were settled, they weren't pining to go back, they weren't longing. Neither of them came with many memories. Taylor came with no memories at all. Jamie came with some memories, and they weren't good ones. So neither of them had that natural longing. They weren't remembering something great that they had before. But if direct contact had been an option for them, I think I would have just needed some time to get my head around it, and just to be sure myself that they were settled here and it wasn't going to harm them and it wasn't going to unsettle them after you'd probably worked for months and months, to get them settled. But that was never on the cards.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely more a modern adoption concept
than
historical.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think it's a good thing?
Yes, based on research, I do. We are just trying to start our direct contact journey. Based on the research, normalizing birth parents is really positive in that they can't imagine something if they know it. Like, so if they meet,
You're
if
right.
you see your birth parent or your birth siblings, whatever, like once a year or however regular it ends up being, they're just some normal, boring person like the rest of us.
They're not
we're all
dreaming that
boring.
they're multimillionaires.
Yeah, exactly. You can't like fantasize this like, oh, it's that person on TV who's just like awesome and they're so cool and I wish I could spend more time with them. Because it's like, oh, it's that person.
Yes.
And they're, even if it is that person on TV, they're actually really boring in real life.
That is a very modern way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think almost before you were terrified that they would want to go back or or that just something would happen that would deeply unsettle them, and then your relationship with them, that you're working really hard to grow in them and nurture it, that can be somehow be wasted by one visit to somebody, where really when you say it out loud like that, it makes no sense. You know, the months and the weeks on the 24/7 good that you pour in is not going to just fall out.
The problem is they can become really unsettled by seeing someone who caused trauma in them.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily healthy if they have really bad memories.
Yes.
And there is that part to toss up in it, because so one of the terms that's thrown around with direct contact is it safe and is it meaningful? Because if it's not safe, it shouldn't happen, because that's why our children are in our care at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Because they weren't being kept safe. And secondly, is it meaningful? If it's not meaningful for the child and it's causing them to spiral back into trauma or back into like reliving that trauma, it's actually not meaningful, and therefore it's also not worth doing. So I guess from our perspective, we are in a very different place where our kids were removed at birth.
Yes.
So we have had them since very young, and they don't have traumatic memories connected to this person that they get to meet this born person once a year. Like, there's no trauma related, whereas that isn't the case for every child. So direct contact isn't necessarily the solution for every child. That's also the research. So like the research also says adopted kids don't tend to want to go back. They sometimes want to slightly incorporate their birth families into their lives a little bit, but it's not necessarily like they don't want to go back.
I think
to
it's
that
more
family.
curiosity maybe, and
answering questions. They often have questions that we can't answer.
Absolutely.
Because we weren't there, we weren't involved. But...
So both of them have some degree of contact. Yes, latterly it's been all online, all on social media.
Which is the modern way. And
Which is the modern way.
Comes with its risks.
Comes with its risks, out with of my control.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's hearing or what they're saying to him, you know, the messages and the vibes that he's picking up. I just know that we've tried to instill our values in them, and both of my kids, adoptive kids, know who their mum and dad are and where their family is and where their home is, and that's really all that matters.
Yeah, and that does just come with consistency, love, and always showing up for them.
Absolutely. With all the issues we've had, social work would always say, I'm amazed you guys are still there. And I says, well, where would we be? Where would we go?
Like, you've committed.
Why would we not be here?
A forever family is a forever family for a reason.
So we are the forever family in the forever home. Yeah, and they both know that. I feel I've done
You've done a great
something
job.
good.
What do you feel is your greatest accomplishment from being an adopter?
These two kids are both still alive. They've both got a lot to offer. They are both more than capable of overcoming these obstacles. I recognise they both need to knuckle down and they both need to do a wee bit more maturing, but they both have the potential to make something of their lives and to thrive. Do you know, I'm still both proud that they still bear our surname.
Yeah.
So I think that's an accomplishment. I don't often think about it, but I think I'm probably quite pleased with what I've done.
Good.
All I've achieved.
You should
Well,
be.
both of us, absolutely. I could never have done it on my own. Never in a million years. It's been a journey and a half. But a journey I would take again if I was, if I was younger and I had the opportunity.
Or you'd do it with another child?
I would do it again, yeah.
Oh, well, that is a testimony and a half, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just think we've both got hearts full of love and we've got the room and we could do it again.
We're looking at fostering unaccompanied minors.
Yes,
so
yes.
Maybe you should explore
that.
That.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah, because they're like teenagers. They're like in the 15 to 18 kind of year old range.
We talk about fostering and if that is something for us.
You should do it now. Okay, what advice would you give someone starting their journey into adoption?
Do it because it's worth it. There's no guarantees, but there's no guarantees with any biological children that you may have either. Our society needs it, and if you want to have an impact on our society and you're able to do it, I think you should. But my advice would be try and enjoy as much of it as you can. Mould them, but not in such a way that it restricts them, because they come with genes that you haven't given them. So who knows what they could be. We want to mould them, but not so much that they just look like us. I want to mould them to be themselves, to be everything they can be. I think sometimes too much information can be terrifying. We did an evening once listening to adoptive parents, and we were terrified because they told us every woe that could possibly happen. And I said, I wish I'd never knew any of that, because none of that might not happen to us. None of it might be relevant to us. But I've got all these images now and these things planted in my head. Obviously know as much about your child, your potential child, that you can do, but just take each day as it comes and just mould them to be the person that God wants them to be.
Well, that's the end of my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
No, I don't know. I just thought that was
great. Amazing.
That was okay for you and your listeners.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Please make sure that you follow us on Instagram and turn on your notifications wherever you listen to your podcasts. Families Made Differently releases a new episode on the first Friday of each month at 9 a.m. Please comment on the podcast or slide into our DMs with your favourite bits, what inspired you, any questions you have, or if you too would like to be involved. We really appreciate your listening ears and continued support. This was Families Made Differently, the podcast designed to share stories from Christians in the UK whose lives and families have been shaped by fostering and adoption.